And after you landed your first job, do you remember how much you were getting paid? So do they pay you hourly or do they pay you by the day? How does the pay structure work?
I was a nurse, ICU, and when I was applying to anesthesia school, I wanted to figure out how I could supplement. Like, how could I pay for this? Is there a way for me to supplement my income? Is there a way for me to reduce the cost? And I was going to try. When I graduated, I had $156,000 worth of student loan debt. I would show up to nursing managers' offices in the morning after night shift.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel in our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. Have you ever met a CRNA who was a D1 athlete, traveled frequently out of state, had a job while in nursing school, and was an Air Force officer? This guest is unlike anyone I've ever interviewed. And if she doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. Oh, and I should also mention that she's a real estate investor, a mentor, sells digital products, still works as a CRNA, is 33 years old, and has a net worth higher than most people you will ever meet at that age. So with that said, let's get to it. Tell us what your name is and what it is that you're currently doing for a living.
My name's Aisha Allen. I am currently a nurse anesthesiologist and a real estate investor. I got my degree in 2014. That was my RN degree. And then I became a CRNA in 2019.
Wait, you got your RN in 2014?
Mm-hmm.
That is after me, and you became a CRNA?
Yes.
I feel like a loser right now.
No. I just had a plan.
Okay, so let's go back then. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Virginia to two immigrant parents. I'm a first generation, first daughter. And I have three brothers. My social security number is... But like I said, Caribbean parents do not play. So education was number one and just making it.
What about your parents? Are they in healthcare or your siblings?
No, my mom, I think she was a secretary for a nursing unit, but that was the closest thing she had to healthcare. My father, no, he worked for Mobile. He first came over, I think at 18 as well, and was working in their mail room actually. So that was his first job. Yeah, so that's what they did.
And what about your siblings?
My older brother, he owns a shortbread company called Allen Scottish Shortbread. I have a little brother that lives in London and then another baby brother that lives in Virginia still. He just graduated school. That's what they're out doing.
That is so cool. It seems like your parents raised very successful children. Out of all things, why did you decide to go into nursing?
The year was 2008. I initially went to college. I played a sport full time, was D1 athlete. I wanted to do mass comm and media and advertising. So I started that process out. And then I decided that's not exactly what I want to do. I want that full-time job, that ability to make money. Just looking what can I do to be successful and what can I go to graduate school for? And I remember it was winter break and I was sitting around looking at different jobs and I found nursing and it was 2 days before the application deadline. And so I started filling out the application and I applied, submitted, and was accepted.
And what sport were you a D1 athlete in?
Soccer, football.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
You had an injury while you were playing soccer?
I had two knee surgery, two ACL tears.
Ooh. And then 2 weeks before the application deadline, you decided to apply and you got in?
Yeah. There's one thing y'all know about me is I have a plan. I'm strategic so that no matter what, wherever I land, I'll be good. And I made sure my grades were good.
And what school was this?
Virginia Commonwealth University.
So you ended up getting a bachelor's then?
Mm-hmm. That's where I got my bachelor's.
And what was your GPA before you got into the program? Because I know there's people that have such a hard time getting into these programs, even with a 3.8, 3.9 GPA.
I had a 3.9.
I guess they saw a D1 athlete with a 3.9. It's a no-brainer. Gotta get in.
You're speaking the truth.
Yeah.
If you're a D1 athlete or you show that you can manage different things and timeliness, it shows a pattern of doing what you need to do and getting it done.
So how would you compare nursing school to the trajectory you were going in before you got into nursing school?
Completely different bears. So I will be honest, I thought my bachelor's in science of nursing was challenging. I don't know if it's because of one of the school that I went to, but also being a D1 athlete. I felt it kind of challenging. I was always on the road traveling, away games or morning weightlifting or film. So I was really, really busy. And so I wasn't able to just devote all of my time to BSN. It was challenging, but nurse anesthesia school is a completely different ballgame. You are learning the whole body from top to bottom, inside to out, chemistry, physics, physics, and it's your job to know it. Your job is to take care and be your patient's advocate when they're on the operating table. So yeah, so things like that. Like there are no C's in nurse anesthesia school. If you get two of them, you're out of the program. With that, in that relation, it's completely different.
I see. And how long did you work as an RN before you got into CRNA school? And what was the path that you took? Like what kind of specialty did you choose to go into before you got into
Mhm.
CRNA school?
Good question. So, my first nursing job ever, I wanted to be a cardiac surgery ICU unit. At the time, there wasn't much information out there, and I knew that that would be a good learning opportunity for me to go into CRNA school. I was a vascular ICU step down nurse for 6 months while I was looking for an ICU position. So I just took the first job that there was, and I would show up to nursing managers' offices in the morning after night shift. But I was a new nurse. I was just hungry, right? I'm like, I want to get into this job. So month 6, I ended up getting the number to a recruiter and called them. And they said, actually, this cardiac surgery ICU is opening up. I met with him. He called me in for an interview. And I was hired on the spot 6 months in as a new grad. And I worked there about a year. And then I applied. And I was like, I'm going to shoot my shot. My application looks good. I was a D1 athlete, right? So let me apply. I applied to 2 schools. I got accepted to both and started in 2016.
This is amazing. So you were a year and a half into your nursing career
Mhm.
before you got accepted into a CRNA school, 2 of them.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Jeez. I
Yeah.
want people who are watching this to see this as an example of what's possible, because people think that it's nearly impossible to become a CRNA and they don't know what path to take. So I love your story of you just got to be determined. You have
Yes.
to lay out a path for yourself and you have to work at that before you even get there. So for you to work, as a D1 athlete, day in and day out to do what you got to do, you said you're weightlifting, you're working as a PCT,
Yeah.
and you were going to school to get your BSN while you were doing all of that. And
Mhm.
then you worked for 6 months as a step down nurse before you decided to get into the ICU. But to get to the ICU, you were reaching out to these managers. You were very proactive in getting to where you are right now. That's crazy. So you said you worked as a PCT while you were in nursing school for your BSN. How many hours were you working at the time?
Not many. So this is, again, me not having the guidance. I was just doing everything so that my experience looked like what it needed to on my resume. And so I worked on Mondays from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. That was like the only time that I could do it, because Mondays were my day off from soccer. We would go Mondays, I would go in, I would work until about 6:30, 6, and then go straight to my PCT job at 7 to 11 p.m. And then Tuesday mornings, I would have weightlifting, and then that I would have go to class, and then leave clinical, and then go to soccer practice. That was just like my schedule.
My goodness. And after you landed your first job, do you remember how much you were getting paid?
Nothing. Yeah, it was $21.01.
You remember the exact
I
decimal
remember.
point?
I remember like calculating, like, if I work this many hours and taxes have to come out. Very naive. I was very young. I was very, very fortunate to not have to pay bills until I became an adult, but I didn't know what shit cost. And I was adding things up and I'm like, I can't do much with this. I gotta go further. So that was my mindset at the time.
I just had this conversation with my daughter because she's going to be 18 this year and she's graduating school.
Congrats.
Yeah. So we planned the trip because she's going to New York with our son, who's 3 years old. And they're going to be going there from, I believe it's like end of July to beginning of August. And then my wife and we're going to be traveling to Bora Bora in August.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're going to fly out to Atlanta and then we're going to fly out to New York together. It's going to be a crazy trip.
Woo.
But we told our daughter to be prepared. It's going to be a lot of traveling during that time. And just the other day, she said, Dad, I really need to find a job. I'm like, hey, if you want to get a job, that's up to you. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you really don't need one. She's
Right.
like, no, I really think I should get a job. So she started I helped her with her resume and everything. She took her resume, went across the street because there's a shopping area across the
Yeah.
street. And she said that they're asking her how early is she available to work. And I told her, if you want to work, you can just tell them I'm available as early as tomorrow. So that's what she's been doing. And then she thought about it. She's like, wait a minute, Dad. So what's going to happen if I have to go on vacation in August? And I said to her, that's my point. Now that you're going to have a job, you cannot go on those vacations.
Exactly. You have to go ask someone. And that's my whole reason for why I'm doing what I do now.
Exactly. And I have these conversations with her all the time. And I tell her the reason why I hate being an employee is is because I hate being stuck in somebody else's schedule.
Having to
So
ask
she's gonna
someone.
learn it the hard way.
Yeah, she'll learn.
Yeah. So you said you were making $21.01 per hour.
Mhm.
And then when you moved on to the ICU position, how much were you making there?
The same amount.
Wow.
Same amount, same hospital system, and now you understand why it was months.
Right.
I was taking my CCRN as soon as I could
Yeah.
to leave.
So how did you fund your college tuition?
I had a partial scholarship from the soccer, so but 25%, it wasn't a full, and then I took student loans out.
Okay. And do you remember how much you ended up taking in total?
My total amount when I was done was around 70K.
Okay. And that was when you finished BSN or both BSN and CRNA?
BSN, no. Actually, no, it was 43K for undergrad total, what I had left. And then I went for graduate school. I did what is called the HPSP, so Health Profession Scholarship Program with the military. So the United States Air Force, they pay up your tuition up front, and then you owe back active duty time, year for year repayment after you graduate and you go into the military and become active duty. So
Wait,
I
hold on a
did,
second.
yeah.
You did not mention that you were in the Air Force.
I
You just
saved
left
a lot
that
of
little
lives.
detail out.
I know. Look, hey, no, you asked, and now you got the answer.
That is a lot. I'm having a hard time keeping up.
So look, okay. So anesthesia school is expensive. And regardless of if I received that scholarship, I would have still went and I would have taken out FAFSA loans, which I actually had to. My first year of school, this is the military for you. So someone in the military messed up my paperwork. I was supposed to have all 3 years of my school paid for. But because they sent in some paperwork late, only two out of the 3 years were paid for. And the most expensive year was not covered, which was 100K. So I went to an expensive school. So 100K for my first year was not covered. However, for people who are listening and want to go to CRNA school, but my tuition was expensive because it included housing at different away sites. I also had very top tier educators. So anyways, first year was not covered. So when I graduated, I had $156,000 worth of student loan debt. However, as a nurse anesthetist, you can make it 2-3K a day for an 8-hour shift. So the ROI, return on investment, is there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you said you were dorming. And what school was this, by the way?
My graduate school was Duke University. So I can walk you through the timeline. Yeah, I'll walk
Yeah,
you
let's
through
do
the,
that.
yeah. So I was a nurse, ICU. And when I was applying to anesthesia school, I wanted to figure out how I could supplement. Like, how could I pay for this? Is there a way for me to supplement my income? Is there a way for me to reduce the cost? And I was going to try and use the Veterans Affairs Hospital. They have a program called the Valor Program as a way to put that on my resume and say like, hey, I've been working with the VA for a while. They had a program. Of course, the year that I wanted to apply, they scrapped it. And so I was like, okay, how else can I do this? Air Force, HPSB. I was one of two, I believe, selected for the year. And so I just put all my application at the same time. So you have to contact a recruiter. You have to get your medical cleared and go to what's called MEPS, and you have to interview. It's a very long process, but I did it at the same time so that by the time I started school and was accepted, they submit your packet. So when you get accepted for school, they say, okay, well, we'll submit your packet. You can apply to the Air Force. And if you get accepted, they'll give you the scholarship. So in 2015, I was doing all the application processes and was accepted to school and submitted to the Air Force at the same time. And so when I started school in 2016, you are not active duty. You are a reservist. And by then when you graduate, then you become active duty. So 2016 through 2019, I was a reservist. They were paying for my scholarship. Graduated in 2019, I went active. I moved to Las Vegas. That was my first military base. And then 8 months into that, they were like, hey, we need someone to go to Japan. Would you be interested? And I said, hell yeah. So I was moved to Japan and I was in Tokyo for 2 years being a CRNA on a military base. It was amazing.
You remind me of this astronaut. I think his name is like Jonathan Kim or Johnny Kim. Who
Oh,
was, you know who I'm talking about? He
yes,
was like
I
a
know who you're
US.
talking about.
Okay, he was like a U.S. Navy
Yeah,
lieutenant commander. He
yeah,
was a former SEAL, a Navy flight surgeon, a naval aviator, and a physician all at the same time. And he was an astronaut.
yes. So that was me. I was an officer in the Air Force. I was
Wow.
Captain Allen.
Okay, so you know what? Let's go through CRNA school
Yeah.
then, because I want to know what that process was like for you. Because there's a lot of my audience who are always asking what it's like going into CRNA school. What kind of classes are you taking? How many hours per week are you taking these classes for? So can you go over that?
Yes, and I will first say this is why I started my YouTube platform at the beginning. Like in 2015, I started recording videos about the process, application process, my stats, what classes I was taking, what I was learning. So that is all on my YouTube. I'll give you the link. All of
Okay.
that is literally documented, blogs, what tests and finals. It's all there.
You know what? Just say it now and you can
Okay.
repeat it later on.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you find me on YouTube, you can search Aisha Allen or Aisha underscore CRNA. I recorded everything because I had so many questions when I started. And so I wanted to be able to be a resource for people. So I'm going to be so honest with you. I didn't share all this back in the day. I could have worked if I wanted to. I knew people who worked. However, there are people who are not well adjusted to the new version of life that is required for nurse anesthesia school. So if you hear my background, what I did to make all of that happen, I'm not new to work. To me, nurse anesthesia school was great. I only had to go to school. There was no practice, there was no weights, no nothing. I could take a nap. So I was like, this is great, y'all. Like, what are we complaining about? So that's my experience.
Yeah.
However, to a lot of people, it is a big time commitment if you've never given anything that amount of time before in your life. So I do understand that. So it was a 3-year curriculum. The first year for me was front loaded. I prefer front loaded. I wanted to get all my classes done so that I could just go to clinical and work on my DMP project because I went to a doctorate program. So the first year, first semester, I was studying probably about 8 to 10 hours a day. I would, of course, break it up. So I was not a coffee drinker. I did not take ADHD medication. Like I knew a lot of people who did, but that was like, I just was like, I didn't know people did that also, by the way. Y'all had the cheat code this whole time. So I did that. Second semester, also a bear. You're doing physics. Physiology was challenging, but I also really loved it. Like I loved learning that much about the body. And at points in times, like we would look at each other and be like, how are we taking care of patients safely without knowing all of this? But
Yeah.
the third semester was when we started clinical. We had a cadaver lab and we were learning about blocks. And my school did oral boards. So we would stand in front of our teachers, like row of teachers, and answer like rapid fire questions. So we were prepared well to enter clinical, where you enter clinical and you could have a preceptor that's asking you questions while you're intubating or inducing a patient. But I feel like my school prepared me well for that. I had amazing clinical sites, almost 20 at the time. Some schools, like I said, are not created the same, and they will keep you at one clinical site for the whole 3 years where you're basically an employee. I don't believe that that should be allowed. So I chose my school because of that. And once I finished didactic, we just did clinicals and worked on my doctorate project and then graduated.
Of the number of students that entered the program, how many of them actually completed it?
Everybody. You'll hear
What was,
a lot of people
yeah.
talk negatively about the process. And again, I think it's just sometimes people aren't well adjusted. And sometimes schools are what I call middle schools. And they
Yeah.
will accept 100 people knowing that 20 will drop out. My school was not like that. Smaller classroom sizes, they were really wanted you to finish.
Well, it's Duke University, right? They better be, they
Right.
have a great reputation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you graduated, what was your plan and where did you work?
Yeah, so I immediately went active duty. And so I was required to go work on a military base for the Air Force. So whatever the needs, they ask you where you want to go, but ultimately it's what the Air Force needed. And so I went to Mike McCallahan, that hospital on the Nellis Air Force Base, for 8 months until they shipped me off to Japan. And I was an independent practice provider from then on, worked by myself, took call by myself, the whole 9 yards. There's different types of practice for anesthesia, for CRNAs, and for me, it was independent practice. So I did that immediately after I passed boards.
And how much were you earning at the time? Do you remember?
I do. So as a CRNA and getting captain pay, you can see the captain pay online if you look up O3 pay. And also want to know, with this scholarship, I was paid monthly. Also, I got a stipend while I was in CRNA school. So it's also why I did that. Yeah, $2,400 a month. Game changer, right? Anyways, so my first, I was getting paid about 4 to 5K a month, which is, if you ask other CRNAs, they're like, that's nothing. But when you take into account, I wasn't paying for healthcare, I wasn't paying for living expenses, I got a VA loan. It ends up being, when they average everything out, I think 120K, 100 to 120K a year when they include all the benefits.
I love that. And you were practicing in Japan at this time, or?
Yeah, after 8 months, and they shipped me to Japan during 2020. If you remember what 2020
Yeah.
is,
Oh man.
yeah, the borders were closed. So I actually really enjoyed that time in Japan. It was the most peaceful, it changed my life, most transformative time ever being there. I worked a lot. So if you are interested in the military, know that the rules outside of the military do not apply to you. They will work you. I would take 24-hour call and go right back to the hospital to do cases. But as soon as I finished my call or my cases, I would hop on a plane and go travel in Japan. So it's a trade-off.
I see. And how long did that last for before you came back to the
I
States?
came back, so 3 years total was my active duty time,
Mm,
and I came back in 2022, October.
I see. And where did you work when you came back to the States?
I took a break
Mhm.
and then I took a locum contract and did that, made an obscene amount of money, more than I'd ever seen in my life. And then I stopped. I wanted to stay closer to home. And I worked at a pediatric dental facility where I was doing like nasal intubations for kids and teeth.
Interesting. So the locum positions that you were taking, what kind of facilities were you working in, or was it
I
inpatient, outpatient?
No, so I actually worked at one of the hospitals that I was a student at, which is you always got to treat everything like a job interview. Okay, everything clinical, no matter if CRNA, nurse, whatever. They said they saw my application. They're like, absolutely, like we will send her here. So it was really cool. Everyone remembered me. Yeah, so I did that for about a half year.
So do they pay you hourly or do they pay you by the day? How does the pay structure work?
Depends. At my pediatric dental facility, I was paid by the day, about 1,500 for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, 1,500 a day, which is also still low. And for my other job, I was paid about $215 an hour in North Carolina, which is also very low compared to the rest of the country.
Wow. And how many hours were you working? Because from my understanding, I thought CRNAs work, it varies. It's all over the place. But the average is sometimes you can work 2 straight days in a row. I mean, you can sleep in between, but how's the schedule work?
Yeah, there's so many different schedules. You can work 4 10s, you can work 3 12s. That schedule still exists. You can work 7 days if you want to. You can also work 24-hour shifts. I had an opportunity to work 24-hour shifts out in California for 4K a week, 3K each day. So there was, but you're on call and you are like, you're the only one, but you're there for the whole weekend. So there were people who fly out to this facility, take a weekend, and then come back, and that's all they do. You're chilling.
And you said 3K or 4K? How much was it?
So there's so many. So one I was offered was because of my how long I had been practicing. The longer some places, the longer you practice, the more they'll pay you. It's not all the way. That's not always the case, but it was 3K per day for each 24. So for 24 hours, 3K on call.
That is insane. And but you're not working the entire 24 hours because you're on call.
No,
So you're
not necessarily.
I see. Were there ever times where you felt like extremely exhausted because of the fact that you were on call and you might finish a procedure, then you'd go get some rest and then you'd have to come back?
So in the military, that did happen. Yeah, you're really really tired, but like in the military, you have to keep your base operating. That is your job. And operations mean everyone has their surgery, especially active duty, and you have to have everyone up to speed, healthy to be able to do that. And so you have to maintain daily operations no matter what. Now, it's a lot different outside of the military. There's labor laws and there's rules for each hospital, how long you can work and in between cases in this. But 24-hour shift, I liked it because I like OB and I like epidurals and I like spinals and getting to do blocks and things. And I don't have to work. If you do 24s, for me, because I didn't increase my spending unless I'm investing, my costs were low. So I could do a 24-hour shift and a month or twice a month and be cool.
That is amazing. You know, a lot of people work really hard to reach financial independence. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as a CRNA, you can get to that point
So
and continue to work as a CRNA and live your life. Okay, so what was your plan after you came back to the US? You
Mhm.
said you took a break
Yeah.
and then you started taking locum tenens
Mhm.
positions or
Mhm.
jobs. What was the plan for you once that money started coming in?
Mhm.
What were you going to be doing with it?
So my plan when I became a nurse was like, okay, I will go to CRNA school and I will get a CRNA job and I'll work and I'll be able to afford my life. That was it. I was really young. If I knew what I knew now, I don't necessarily know if I would have went to CRNA school, to be honest. I'm glad I did. I love my job, but I had come in contact with a mentor of mine, Dr. Dante Flanagan, shout out to you. And we were at a conference, just the importance of networking. And he was like, yeah, I'm investing in these houses and this and that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he pulls out his phone and he shows me all the insurance policies that he has on his homes. And he was just checking, I think it was tax time or something like that. And I was like, what do you do all of this for? Like, what's the point? And like, why do you have so many homes? How are you paying for all of this? And he just laid out the game for me. Like, I always knew I didn't want to work for forever, but I never had a plan until I was a nurse and on my way out to go to CRNA school. And so I had that intuition, like, okay, let me buy a home. So I bought my first home while I was in CRNA school. Super glad I did, because that home has now appreciated like 150K. And so my goal at that point was real estate. How can I leverage real estate, leverage my income to buy as much property as possible, to be able to leverage that and have someone else pay me and me not have to show up physically to make money. And that became my plan. And so when I graduated and went to Las Vegas as a CRNA, I bought a home like 2 months after that, which is why I chose the Las Vegas base, because real estate was really, really cheap. The Raiders were moving there. I told y'all at the beginning, I always have a plan. So I chose that base, bought a home 2 months after I landed, turned that into an Airbnb, made $5,000 like month 2. And I was like, oh my God, I struck gold. And so I made a course about it. I'm like, nurses, come on, like stop overtime work, invest your money into a property. And so I bought that property, made a lot of money on that. It's a legal one, by the way. Las Vegas is a tough Airbnb market, but I did it. And I just was like, let me accumulate more wealth by investing heavily into real estate. So every penny I got, I was either investing it into real estate, a mastermind, a course, or some type of self-improvement. A little crypto here, 401k here. I invested in my TSP with the military. So at that point, I was probably investing about 80% of my income. Yeah.
You are a force to be reckoned with.
Thank you.
I am not kidding. Everything you've done in life shows why you are where you are today.
Thank you.
I do interview a lot of nurses who have accomplished amazing things. I've interviewed a nurse who used to work for UCLA.
Okay.
She was like a nurse educator for UCLA, and her name is Dr. Kiona Jones.
I know her.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's such a beautiful person.
I love her.
So she was working there, and she opened up a med spa business and gave up her $95 an hour job that she loved. She actually loved working there, but she gave it up because she knew that she had a higher purpose in life. And she started the med spa business. The first year, it earned maybe like $30,000 or so. But by the second year, she realized, okay, it's making a little bit more money than I was anticipating. So she decided to go heavier on it. She quit her UCLA job and now focused 100% on her med spa business. Then she started teaching other nurses how to start their own med spa business.
Yeah.
Last year, she made like $500K. This year, she's teaching physicians how to partner up with nurses so that they can start their own med spa.
We chat. So she's one of, I would call her like a colleague that we keep in contact, because you need to have people around you that are doing the things that you are doing or want to do. But yeah, I absolutely love the work she's doing. We actually taught a few courses together. And so that's kind of what I did. I moved into teaching and coaching nurses to ditch the bedside. But yeah, I created a membership for people to learn how to do Airbnb, how to invest in real estate from beginning to no knowledge to investing. And then I even started to help nurses passively invest with me, because some people don't want to swing a hammer or manage a flip. So 2023 was the first year that I actually created a syndication, and nurses invest with me. I pay them back interest. I invest the money in a property. And then once I flip or sell, I pay them back. My most recent raise, I think I raised $320K. And so that was like my new goal, my new project. And I'm building a homestead actually in North Carolina for people who want to just land, for people to be in community, a solar farm, grow food if they want to, and just, yeah, like I said, live in community. So that's what I'm building with this next group of nurses. So I'm taking what I've learned and what I've gathered in the community that I built with nursing and moving it into real estate.
So how many properties do you own at this point?
See, I'm gonna count. 1, 2, 3, 4 that I have under my control.
Are they all short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, long-term rentals?
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a tea. I like a combo, actually. So so in Vegas, I found that there were months over the holidays that people aren't traveling to Vegas. They're at home or traveling somewhere else. And so I was like, let me try midterm rentals. So renting to nurses or people traveling for mid-range time. And so for the Vegas home, I do short-term rentals all the way through the year, except from November to to February. And so those are midterm rentals. And then that's what I do for that. Other one, both of those are midterm rentals as well. So two of those are midterm rentals and then one more long-term rental. So just a family renting a regular house.
And how much are you generating or were you generating last year through those
For
properties?
those properties, about 32K a month.
Wow.
Mhm. So
Damn.
one of those properties is a short-term rental in Puerto Rico that does really, really well. But that's just generating. So
Yeah.
that's just, crude numbers. You also I pay 20% to of the Puerto Rico property to a manager out there who speaks
Mm,
Spanish, who has all the clean, does everything. That was his fee. I was like, this is a little steep, but it's worth every penny. I pay him 20% of that. You have HOA for that, you have your mortgages for that. So 32K coming in is not 32K that you keep. I'm
yeah.
sure everyone knows that, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Makes sense. And are you still working as a CRNA?
I am. hmm
And how often are you working now?
I started working 2 days a week at the pediatric dental facility. That's too much for me. So now I work one day.
Mm.
But I'm doing all the I don't manage all of them from top to bottom anymore, but I'm managing two flips right now as we speak. So I do that. I do these podcasts, I'm coaching, I'm starting a new business. I just shut down a blue light glasses company that I started while I was in CRNA school. So one day a week in the hospital is enough for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And at what point did you decide to start this mastermind group?
That was 2021. It was after I was having solid 5K months.
Mm,
When I was like, do I wait? You have this like imposter moment. And I was like, do I wait until, I don't know, some arbitrary random number? And my answer was no. I knew that this was a profitable market and I wanted to help nurses to realize that they do not have to work their asses off until they're 60, whatever. I think that at the time I looked, the average age of retirement was 62 for bedside nurses. And I just remember, I always remember and hear nurses being like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to go to work. And you can change that. And so I started the Ditch Bedside membership group with that in mind. Like, how can I help people learn tools that do not require them to show up every day and have an exit strategy or work PRN if they want to?
and also, you started selling a course. Do you
Mhm.
remember how much you generated that first year from the course?
Yeah, my first course was 70K.
The first year?
hmm
Wow. And that's in addition to your CRNA salary. That's in addition to what you were earning from your Airbnbs or your rental properties.
hmm
You said that you were working 2 days a week
hmm
in the Peds place, but you're like, that's too much for you. You're going to reduce it. But where is your primary source of income today coming from?
Real estate. And I want to also be clear, I don't spend a lot of money.
Mm,
I do not subscribe to the new Stanley Cup, new fig color, this new sneaker, new Hoka. That's not my ministry. I don't buy new clothes every month. I don't have to have the latest anything. So as a CRNA, all of my expenses, the most money I spend is on mortgages.
mm.
It's not on anything to myself. So my costs are very, very low. So that allows me to invest a lot of money, but also not have to work as much.
I have another question then, because there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out how do they purchase their first rental property.
Mhm.
So how did you go about doing that?
Yeah. And that's so I'm plugging myself here that I have that course in the Ditch to Bedside membership. I literally take you to not knowing what the hell you're doing to being able to purchase using homeowner grants and all of that stuff. So my first purchase was a home in a downtown area, which if you can look at plans for a city ahead of time and you can see what revitalization is going into these cities and what money is being pumped in to revitalize. And a lot of people, some people, a lot of people, a lot of times it is gentrification. And I wanted to be a Black woman owner in a historically Black city and be a good owner, not a bad landlord, right? So, and I was living here and working here, and so I wanted to buy, and I ended up finding a home that was for people with a lower income. So there was an income cap. And because I made what I made and it wasn't counted as income, I was able to purchase this home and only have to pay $3,500 for the down payment. So that was my first home. Did a lot of searching, had to write a bunch of letters, and you have to go through programs, but I will jump through any hoop. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. So I jumped through those hoops, bought my first home for $157,000. It has appreciated now to $330,000. 130K, and I haven't sold it yet. I'm still holding on to that. Just have a long-term renter in there. And that was the first home. Second home bought with a VA loan because I was in the military, so no money down. And then I bought the third property in PR, which is the short-term rental, the long-term short-term, well, the full-time short-term rental. That was a second time loan, so I had to put 10% down for that one. And I'm so glad that I did. I think I put 40, 50K for that down payment. So that was the third. Fourth, just bought in 2023. This is the big flip. We are completely renovating and adding another cabin structure on the same grounds to just completely change how much this property is worth and get a return and, get refinance and get out of that loan. So that's the four.
So out of all the properties that you own, which one is your breadwinner? Which one makes you the most money?
The one in Puerto Rico.
And if you take your revenue and you subtract it from your expenses, how much are you earning from that?
From PR?
Yeah.
About $7,800 a month.
That's pretty damn good. Oh, real estate. You gotta love real estate.
It's oceanfront.
Oh, that makes sense. You said you put 40 to 50K down. How much was the property worth? Was it like 400,000, 500,000?
Yeah. No, 375.
Jeez, that's amazing.
Good number.
That is a
Good
really
math.
good return.
Good math.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was also buying when people were not buying. Interest rates, this. And at that time, interest rates went up 2% since when I bought that. But when I remember the noise. People saying, oh, don't buy this, don't buy that. And I'm glad I did. Don't listen to the noise, y'all.
That's right. Oh, I forgot to ask you this. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 33. I just turned 33 this month.
Oh man, I'm so old. I just turned 39. I'm gonna be 40 next year.
No way.
I gotta
You
get
don't
on
like
it.
it.
I always think about this every now and then when my wife and we feel like we're at a point where like we might need to work a little extra this month to make up for what we didn't make last month.
Yeah.
And then I think about it and I say to myself, we're actually doing pretty fine. If we look at our net worth, actually, if we need to cash out on our net worth and we had to sell some things, then we're doing just fine.
And that is huge. I hope people like rewind that and play that. You can liquidate. Like, if you need to liquidate, you can liquidate. And I'm recounting. I want to make sure I answer your question. You asked me what I bring in every month. Did you mean total from all or like after expenses or for that one property?
I'm going to ask you that. Yes. So go ahead and let me know what the total is.
Okay.
Too.
So I want to be clear. My total that I keep is about 78 to 8K, like that I can keep a month without doing anything. After all bills, all expenses, everything are paid. That's from all the different properties.
Well, that's 7 to 8K.
Yeah, that I get to keep.
Yes. That's in addition to all of the other income sources.
Yes. So real estate gets me 8K. Anesthesia, my 1 to 2 days a week, I can get about 4K from that. My coaching, all of them are on autopilot. That's about 11K. So I have a membership and I have courses. So all of that generates its own income monthly. So that's about 11K on its own. And then I'm also now hosting retreats. Also another reason why I left full-time nurse anesthesia work, 1, because it can burn you out, but 2, I am utilizing my CRNA knowledge to help people utilize plant medicine in different ways. I believe that nurses, we are stressed and we work a very high stress job. And plant medicine changed my life. And so now I host nurses on retreat to learn about plant medicine and how they can incorporate it into their life to reduce stress, figure out what the heck they want to do in life if it's not nursing, and to separate their identity from a job. That's also another source of income, or will be. Right now, I'm breaking even, mainly because that's really what it's for. I'm not here to make a ton of money on that passion project, which I even have a privilege of having a passion project, not needing to make a lot of money. But yeah, so those are the different income sources. I told you a little bit ago, I shut down one. I started a blue light glasses company called Shop Uvia. Sat down, I started that while I was in CRNA school, ran that, was doing shipping orders and all of that stuff. But time for that one to quietly exit. I still have a ton of inventory. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but I wanted to focus on these flips.
I like that you did that because some people will start a business and even if the business continues to be unprofitable for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, they continue to try and try. They continue telling themselves, I just got to keep trying. Maybe something will work. Maybe the market's just not ready for this
No,
at the
the
time.
market tells you what
And
it's ready for.
yeah, because Monica and I, my wife and I, we run this YouTube channel, and part of the YouTube channel is teaching nurses about the different side or how to earn money away from the bedside.
Yes.
That's part of it, but also how to get your finances in order and how to start side hustles or businesses. So we took it upon ourselves because I used to drop ship way back in the days, and it took me 6 months to become profitable. But when I did become profitable, my most profitable week, something happened that I had to stop it after that week. And I told myself, this is it. We're going to make so much money doing this. Let's keep doing this. I ended up getting banned on Facebook because the way that ads used to work
I
back in the days,
know.
you automate this stuff
Yep.
and you make all these creative ads. And then all of a sudden, one of your ads,
And they shut you down.
yeah, in the way that Facebook would want it, and they
Yeah.
shut you down. So I got shut down for like 30 days. I couldn't even comment in my personal account. So I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I, we decided after we started this YouTube channel, let's go back to what we were doing before. Maybe we can try it again because Facebook changed their policies on marketing and they relaxed their policies a bit. So we said, okay, what is it that we like doing? And my wife said, well, we have our son. Maybe we can start like a children's clothing company. I'm like, okay, maybe we can do that. Since you want to be part of it, she wanted to be part of it. She was so invested. Let's do that. We paid into a mentorship program and everything with this guy, Justin Phillips. I don't know if you know him. He started this company called Support Black Colleges,
Okay.
where he used to sell shirts and hoodies.
I know that brand.
Mm-hmm. And he ended up selling the brand for $10 million. And then he started a mentorship program to show people how to do it. We joined the mentorship program. I tell this story all the time, but we joined the mentorship program. And when we told him what we wanted to do after we joined it, he said, what in the world are you guys doing? You have a nursing community. You have like over 80,000 followers that are all nurses. And you want to start a children's clothing brand?
I'm amazing. That's a mentor.
Yes, exactly. And he said, listen, that's not what you signed up for with me, but I want you to go back to your community and ask them what it is that they think you should start. If they say that you should start this clothing brand, children's clothing brand, I will help you 100%. But if they say something else, then you come back to me and you let me know.
Yeah.
Came back to the community. Like, I think it was like 70% of them said they want us to start a mentorship program. So I brought this back. I didn't start it yet. I'm working on it now.
Oh, that's amazing.
I came back to him and I told him this and I said, all right, you didn't sign up for this. And all of my students are here to start a clothing business, but you can come to the meetings. And if you have questions, I will stop what I'm doing. I will stop answering the other questions and I will answer your questions and I will help you start this mentorship program.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I felt like I came to the meetings and when I asked a question, first of all, there were like 50 other people raising their hands on the Zoom call. And I felt like I was taking too much of his time for something that's unrelated to the area that he was an expert in. So I told him I felt bad that I didn't want to do that to him. I felt like it was unfair for everybody else. And he said he totally agreed. And he said, he gave me a refund on the course because he felt bad too that I was still attending these meetings and it wasn't really what I was there for. Yeah. So those are the type of mentors that I really give it up to. Like it's hard as a mentor. And he charged $6,800 for that course.
Yeah. The coaching mentoring arena is very interesting. I've learned a lot about it. Some people show up hoping for a savior, and it's like, you're gonna have to do some work. I can show you and lead you to the water, but do you want to drink it? So I hear you.
Yeah. So you told me that you make about $7,000 to $8,000 from your rentals.
Mm-hmm.
You make around $4,000-ish to $5,000 from your CRNA job, and then you also make about $11K from your coaching/mentorship program.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you make about somewhere around like $20,000 to $22,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I'm working my reduced hours. Yep.
So, and as a CRNA, if you wanted to and you needed to invest in extra real estate, you can just pick up a couple of shifts. That's why you're still a CRNA. That's why you haven't given it up completely.
I will never. So this is the same thing with nursing. I mentioned this earlier. If I knew what I knew now, maybe I wouldn't have gone to CRNA school. You will always have a job as a nurse. You will always have a job as a CRNA, especially with the population getting older and food doing what it's doing. I will always be able to go back and say, hey, I'll pick up a shift here and there. And that has always been my goal. I'm too proud to go back to work. Let's say all this flopped. I got to sell everything. I will be the first person. Sure, sign me up for full time. I'm not too good for anything, but I'm really happy with where I am and that I get to work the 1 to 2 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, well, last year I worked 16 hours average per week, but I'm in Northern California. I'm in Sacramento. And
You're making money.
yeah, exactly right. Because my wife and I, our goal is to become financially independent so we don't have to rely on the job,
Right.
but we can work whenever we want to work, right?
Yeah.
That's our goal in life. Because I mean, I don't hate being a nurse. I just hate being an employee. That's the thing that I hate the most.
Same. I hated being an employee in the hospital as a
Yeah.
nurse. If it was a different environment, I could have probably done it for a long time. But me asking to go on vacation and you're saying, no, the schedule doesn't allow it, gotta go.
Exactly. And when I tell, because my coworkers, I started this YouTube channel 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So they all know, they like watch the videos and everything.
Yeah.
But when I tell them that my goal is to generate enough income from content creation in our business,
Love it.
because aside from the content creation, like we sell some digital products, but I told them that my goal is to generate enough from that so that it can replace our nursing income and we don't have to
So
do this if we
possible.
don't want to. And they said, well, I don't know if that's such a good idea. What happens if it fails? And I'm like, if it fails, then I'll still be a nurse. Like,
Oh, that's
what's the
small
big
mindset.
deal?
Sorry, y'all, but that's
Yeah. So what is your goal going forward? You said you started this real estate syndication. What
mhm.
is your goal with that and the rest of your businesses?
You're so good at this. I love my goal is to lend, is
Mhm.
to start lending for other people to do real estate flips and get into investing. I think 2025 is going to be the year that we start. So I've been saving away mine and my partner's own personal cash to basically become the bank and give people the opportunity to invest. Obviously, we'll be taking our points and, be a passive investor, but sometimes it's hard to get lenders. And I've been on the receiving end of that. And if I see a problem, I will try and fix it. And so I see us, my partner and myself, and my company called Ancestors Farm, lending and being that type of resource.
Oh, that's amazing. What kind of industry does your partner work in? Because he seems like he knows a lot about finance.
I'm really grateful for him. Shout out to you, babe. He actually started out in finance, but he also doesn't do the employee thing either and had to jet. So he learned about that, but he's just a really good entrepreneur. Like he does entrepreneur support and he helps people get into business, but in a way where it's personalized to them, not just to make money. He works with like really heart-led, centered businesses with people who want to make an impact. That's what he does. And so I get to run everything by him. And right now he works in the industry of helping banks who lend money. He helps them get more money and grants from the United States government. So I get to hear from him and learn what, the grants that they're releasing now. So Greenhouse Green Energy Fund, they're in the solar industry. There's so many grants that our communities don't even know exist, and where the government hands out money to people to do a certain thing. And so when you heard me earlier say the solar farm, there are grants for that, for you to put solar on your land and sell back your energy to the power companies and the power grid. And that is a long time in perpetuity. And so Greenhouse Green Energy Fund, look it up. The money is coming down, being deployed. And I know it sounds like a bunch of letters, but this is why we're here. This is the stuff that I'm so energized by. Is like, get out of the hospital. There's like, work your shifts, but open your mind, be available for more information and see what else is out there.
Yes, that's great. I love the way you put that. Now, if my audience wants to reach out to you, because I actually had a consultation with an elder gentleman who said that he reached out. I don't know if you know her, the net worth nurse.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He reached out to her. She does something in the real estate syndication space.
Yeah.
Because some people out there, they want to invest money in real estate. They just don't know how to go about it. There you go. But there's so many other areas you can help these people out in. So how do they reach out to you if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So easiest way to reach out to me is through my email, hello@aishaallen.com. So HELLO at AISHAALLEN.com. And you can reach out to me there. Another place to find all my resources is on Instagram at Aisha_CRNA. So I have the real estate, the anesthesia content, homesteading content now, for people who are interested in renos. And then the Ditch the Bedside community is a place for people to plug in if they're looking for actual course, step-by-step help, access to me where I coach and mentor every week. We have monthly sessions where you can can consult with me on a project, and you have all access to all the courses in there as well. So that's in the membership program. And then you also get invites to like different events. I don't know if you know who Arlen Hamilton is. She's a venture capitalist, invests with Mark Cuban and a bunch of companies. I was in her mentorship group and have just become really, really invested in what she offers. And so this year, actually, I gave people tickets to the event that she hosted, Your First Million. And so people in my membership network got free tickets to that. I do stuff like that. And then you can get offers to invest with me first. So Digital Bedside membership is like the place to be if you want the high touch interaction with me, help, all that stuff.
If you enjoyed this video, then watch this video here where I speak with a nurse who quit her $95 an hour UCLA job and now makes over $500,000 per year.